Before we begin, I'd like to remind all my new and old fans that I now have a Kofi and PayPal set up in an attempt to afford commissions and to try to meet my friends at the very last BronyCon this year. If you want to leave me a tip, that is. All tips will be rewarded in some way, including a name and channel shout out in 2 of my edited videos per Kofi, and you can get some additional free shout outs in my next edited videos, like Casey and Crispy Chris here, just for following me. The site's free to join, and if you have a Facebook, Google, or YouTube account, setup is super easy. Now, on with the first Season 9 review on my channel. I don't often cover episodes when they premiere, as often as I'd like, and originally I wanted this to be an only mildly scripted review like my Equestrian Girls review last week. However, on the morning of the premiere, I ended up getting my car stuck in some mud, and spent the whole day stressing and trying to get myself out so I wouldn't have to tell my parents I made a mistake. I bring this up because, after all that stress that day, and after seeing Twilight being given such responsibility, and then, in the end, to admit she's not quite ready, and shouldn't be afraid to still ask for Celestia and Luna's help, struck a chord with me, and it made me reflect on how saying you're not sure of yourself, and to ask for help isn't a weakness, and how your friends will always be there, as my friends helped and calmed me down, in spite of my stress that day, so I could calmly ask my own father for help. Just goes to show you how this series can still help and inspire and motivate me, even years later. But personal experience aside, how does this episode hold up? I'm assuming you've seen it now, so I'll just jump in and say, yes, it is great. Perfect or the best premiere? That's to be desired, but I'll get to that. Although a lot of my enjoyment could just be because I'm comparing it to the Season 8 premiere. Although trying to be subjective, what makes it good? Well, first we have the conflict with Twilight and friends. Yeah, Twilight, and while she still plays a part, it's not nearly as focused on Starlight as premieres and finales have been in the past, but it doesn't just push her out of the way either. Most of the first half is Twilight dealing with the idea of becoming the ruler of Equestria, and while I could get all nitty gritty and may even do so if I ever do a more in-depth review collab with someone in the future, I was mostly not bothered by it, as it seemed like a great setup for the final season as, in the end, she's not ready, and that's not a bad thing like I said. Though speaking of, I was at first not digging Celestia and Luna. It felt as if they were just like, we want to retire, so here's our job, whether you like it or not. Fortunately, this problem was redeemed in the end when they admitted it themselves that they may have been a bit hastily selfish and will allow Twilight and her friends the time they need to ready themselves. Which, along with Grogar, will likely be what this season focuses on. Speaking of which, yes, I love Grogar too. Though I'm kinda iffy with his face and frame not being quite as bulky as his G1 counterpart, it works well enough, as he's supposedly not at full power. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but it works for me to get over the uncanniness as everything else about him is top notch for a final villain. Although I guess I should also talk about Somber and, well, I wouldn't say he's terrible, and no, I haven't read the comic. I guess I would just expect a little more out of him from all we got in the trailers. Although I am glad of what we did get as opposed to what little we had in the Season 3, but he felt a little too easily defeated even if he did give the girls a run for his money. Also, I'm not a really fan of full mind control. I know it seems an oddity to focus on, but when it comes to mind controlling, I don't really like it when a villain just has the power to take over anyone's mind, and the heroes aren't controlled because. It just feels lazy if I'm honest, and ends up causing the hero's only way to win by an ex machina. Personally, if you want me to like a mind control villain, you gotta give me some way the people being mind controlled can resist to offer the audience a glimpse of hope of the bad guy being defeated.
Hunt them down and destroy them. You're trying to resist me, aren't you? No one can resist me at this range, satellite or not. Look at you.
However, that's not the worst part. The worst part for me was the climax, and it's sadly not something I can just brush off. Not the ex machina, which it would have been nice if it didn't, and while I was a little more judgmental, only because I'm also working on a review of Bumblebee on the side of this, where, in that movie, Bee wins not by some ex machina ancient device, but rather by being creative in his fight with his environment, and by using some of his opponent's strengths against them. Even more so here, since the girls actually did something similar, taking advantage of Somber's ego, while Spike freed Cadence, who then got the Crystal Heart. But in the end, the X magic was just something I wish didn't have to happen, but I can live with since it isn't as the show doesn't typically do this. No, what really pissed me off, and brought this premiere down a level, was Discord's sacrifice. Oh no, he sacrificed himself to say, nope, I didn't believe it for a minute. And as I first watched, I was sinking, pleading. As much as I would have actually stood up and applaud to kill off not just Discord, well, that was before I had to collect everyone's bucket of tears, but an actual character, I was just hoping, and would have had no problem considering this is my favorite premiere, if Discord had at least been somewhat seriously injured. I mean, just think of how high the show's bar would have been risen if, at the very least, there were consequences of Discord no longer having his magic. It would have heightened the stakes even more, with the idea that someone like Discord could actually be defeated, and make Grogar even more of a threat if he's supposed to be more powerful than Sombra. But nope, he was faking it the whole time. He was just doing it as a test, and he never was in any danger, and he just could have magically snapped his fingers to I knew this was coming, but I was just so wishing and praying it wouldn't, since now it hinders any fear I may have had of either Grogar possibly winning or worried that something bad might happen. I'm mainly pissed because I've been watching DC Superhero Girls with Peppermint, and spoilers for the pilot, but in the climax of the episode, one of the characters gets a battle scar, and while I'm doubtful anyone will actually die in the series, that simple highlight in Bumblebee's hair showed that unfixable consequences can happen, and not every situation these heroes face may turn out well for them. And now, because the staff wanted Discord to fake it, means, at least me personally, I'm less worried about anything really bad happening to these girls or anyone else by the end. There's no tension, stakes, and that kind of takes away some excitement. However, despite this, which is a very big problem since it may affect how I watch and enjoy the rest of the season, overall the episode was still highly enjoyable and fun. Most of which, though, came from Grogar being well voiced and acted, Twilight just being adorable, and before Discord's non-sacrifice, I had a fun time and was truly invested in what might happen. Will Twilight be ready to one day rule Equestria? Or will whatever Grogar had planned succeed? Well, I'm pretty sure I already know the answer thanks to that fake out, but let me know what you thought of the episode. And join me next week as we continue on our journey of the new season of MLP one last time.